Preeti Rotti case of 2013 was a heart-wrenching incident that shook the entire India. The tragic events in this case broke everyone's heart. You must have heard numerous tales of brutality, but the real story that we are about to share with you today will bring tears to your eyes. This incident took place in 2013 and had a significant impact on the entire country, as it not only took the life of an innocent girl but also exposed a harsh reality of our society that we have tried to ignore. The incident began in the Narela area of Delhi, where Preeti Rotti lived with her family. The day of 2013 was particularly special for Preeti, as it was her first time stepping outside her home. This was the first step she took towards her career, and she was excited, yet a little nervous. After completing her studies, Preeti had taken an important decision. She wanted to become a nurse at a military hospital. To pursue this, she started her preparations, and during this time, a vacancy for a nursing position in the Indian Navy was announced. Preeti applied for the vacancy and successfully passed the exam. She was selected as a nursing officer in the Indian Navy. This news was a source of pride for the entire family, as Preeti had achieved this success through her hard work and dedication. She was now ready to travel to Mumbai, where she was to join her duties. On May 1, 2013, the Garib Rath Express began its journey from Delhi's Nizamuddin station. Preeti and her family boarded the train and took their seats. As the train started moving toward its destination, the train was crowded with passengers, and there was hustle and bustle inside. During this time, Preeti and her family noticed a young man in the train. He had his face covered with a cloth and was sitting wearing a cap. He would occasionally go to the restroom and then return to his seat. Preeti and her family started paying attention to this young man because he was repeatedly trying to stare at Preeti. However, this did not seem too unusual, as the train was crowded and full of noise. At night, everyone was tired and went to sleep, but the young man's behavior was odd. Preeti's family noticed this and became alert. The next morning, on May 2, 2013, the train arrived at Bandra station in Mumbai. Preeti and her family got up from their seats and prepared to disembark. When the train stopped at Bandra station to conclude its journey, Preeti and her family members got off the train. It was morning, and in the crowd that had disembarked from the train, Preeti felt a bit tired, so she was walking slowly. Her father, uncle, and aunt had walked a few steps ahead, and when Preeti realized she had fallen behind, she decided to speed up. This was not an unusual situation, as the journey had been long and Preeti was feeling a bit fatigued. But when Preeti noticed that she had fallen quite behind, she began to walk faster. As she tried to catch up with her family, the young man's face seemed to be even more familiar now. He had advanced a step further. For a moment, Preeti thought something was wrong, but she didn't realize at that time how close the man, who would take her life, had come. What had begun as a regular journey soon turned into a horrifying and tragic event. Preeti's murder, committed by that young man, left the entire country devastated. This incident proved that sometimes, the things we consider the most ordinary can change our lives forever. The pain and tears of Preeti's family became a significant issue during the trial of the case. The judge's comment in the case was one that left everyone's eyes moist. The judge described it as the greatest cruelty ever inflicted on women and emphasized the need for severe punishment for the crime. In order to catch up with her family, Preeti started to quicken her pace, but suddenly she felt someone touch her shoulder from behind. Preeti's steps came to an abrupt halt, and she turned around to see who had touched her. As soon as Preeti turned her face to look back, she saw the same young man who had been sitting in her coach, hiding his face with a cloth and trying to stare at her. Before Preeti could understand what was happening, the masked man pulled out a bottle and, in the next moment, threw something from it towards Preeti's face. As soon as the thrown substance hit Preeti's face, she screamed loudly, crying in pain. Hearing her scream, her father, uncle, and aunt rushed to her side. Other passengers nearby also gathered around Preeti. Upon seeing her condition, the people around quickly realized that someone had thrown acid on her face. As Preeti's father and uncle tried to help her, a few splashes of the acid also landed on their hands, causing them to experience the burning sensation as well. Still, they forgot their own pain and focused on helping Preeti. Preeti's father and uncle quickly lifted her and rushed her to the station master's office. Since Preeti was in severe pain and her injuries were deep, the railway officials immediately began preparing to transfer her to another hospital. The injured, including Preeti, were sent to Baba Hospital, but Preeti's condition was critical. Therefore, instead of Baba Hospital, she was admitted to the nearby Guru Nanak Hospital. Meanwhile, the masked man, after throwing acid on Preeti, tried to flee the scene. Just then, Samir Sheikh, who had been standing near Preeti, heard her scream and quickly picked up the bottle to figure out what had just happened. As he held the bottle, some acid spilled onto Samir's hands. He immediately dropped the bottle and realized that Preeti had been attacked with acid. He then started running after the masked man. He shouted, "Salim, Salman, catch him! Catch him!" In fact, Salim and Salman were also with Samir. When Samir realized that Preeti had been attacked with acid, he ran after the masked man, asking Salim and Salman to help him catch him. The three of them started chasing the man, but within moments, the masked man managed to escape and disappear, evading them. Remember these names: Samir Sheikh, Salim, and Salman. These three played a crucial role in this case. Preeti was admitted to Guru Nanak Hospital, where her treatment began. Meanwhile, Preeti's father, uncle, and Samir Sheikh were also taken to Baba Hospital. The police arrived at the scene and began preparing the spot panchnama, official record of evidence. Since Samir's injuries weren't deep, he was discharged from the hospital soon after and was brought back to the crime scene by the police. Based on his statement, the police began documenting the panchnama. Additionally, the police collected evidence from the spot, where Preeti was initially supposed to be sent to Baba Hospital. However, because of the severity of her injuries, she was quickly taken to Guru Nanak Hospital. The issue, however, was that Guru Nanak Hospital did not have a burn unit, and there were other facilities lacking as well. After some time, Preeti was referred to Marzina Hospital for further treatment. Upon arrival at Marzina Hospital, Preeti's treatment began immediately. The police also reached Marzina Hospital to take her statement. But her injuries were so severe that Preeti had lost her ability to speak. Her face had been badly burned, and there were serious wounds on her neck as well. As a result, Preeti's statement could not be recorded. Although Preeti had deep wounds on her body, her spirit was unbroken, and she fought with full courage and determination. Although Preeti couldn't speak, she signaled to communicate through writing. She was given a pen and paper to write. Protests erupted in many parts of the state, demanding the immediate arrest of Preeti's attackers and swift punishment for them. The police were under immense pressure to arrest the criminals as soon as possible. But the problem was that there was no clue about the criminal anywhere. However, based on the statements of some witnesses present at the station at the time of the incident, the police had prepared a sketch of the criminal, and the search for him began. But the police were coming up empty-handed. Meanwhile, on May 4, 2013, a young man named Pawan Kumar called Preeti's sister Tonu and inquired about how Preeti was doing. Pawan Kumar was a B.Tech student and had an old acquaintance with Preeti. Tonu informed her father, Amar Singh Roti, about the phone call, and Amar Singh passed this information to the police officers investigating the case. Pawan Kumar had called to ask about Preeti's condition. After receiving this information, the police showed the sketch, made from witness statements, to Preeti and asked her if she recognized anyone. In response, Preeti wrote down 3 names on a board: Satyam, Anku, and Pawan Kumar. According to Preeti, the boy in the sketch resembled one of these 3. Since Preeti had mentioned Pawan Kumar's name and he had called to inquire about her condition, the police speculated that perhaps Pawan Kumar was the one who had thrown acid on Preeti. They suspected he wanted to know whether Preeti was alive or dead. With Pawan Kumar under suspicion, the police began their investigation and immediately started searching for him. After a few days of searching, on May 9, 2013, the police arrested Pawan Kumar. This news fueled public anger even more, and people began demanding that the criminal be given the strictest punishment as soon as possible. People were also praying for Preeti's swift recovery. However, Preeti's condition was worsening day by day. She had been at Marzina Hospital for several days, and she had undergone multiple surgeries there. But instead of improving, her condition was deteriorating. Preeti's internal organs were slowly shutting down. Seeing her condition worsen, the doctors at Marzina Hospital decided to refer her to Mumbai Hospital for better treatment. Since people were directly connected to this case, they were constantly seeking updates on Preeti's condition. The government also arranged for the best possible treatment for her. As soon as Preeti was transferred to Bombay Hospital, a team of top specialist doctors was formed to take charge of her treatment. Despite their best efforts, Preeti's condition continued to deteriorate, and she was put on ventilator support. The doctors did not give up and continued to do everything possible to save Preeti. Preeti was still fighting her condition, but unfortunately, on June 1, 2013, her heart stopped beating, and she passed away. The news of Preeti's death sent waves of grief and anger across the country. Everyone was in shock over her passing. After her death, an autopsy was conducted, and her body was brought to Delhi for the final rites. However, Preeti's family demanded a CBI investigation before allowing the last rites to be performed. A protest rally was organized with her body. Finally, after the government assured them of a CBI investigation, Preeti's body was given a dignified funeral with full respect from the state. After Preeti's death and funeral, everyone had one demand: that the killers of Preeti be given the harshest punishment possible. The police had arrested Pawan Kumar, but the problem was that there was no evidence against him. The railway police had also failed to find any evidence against Pawan Kumar. Meanwhile, Preeti's father, Amar Singh Rotti, conducted his own investigation, and it was revealed that on May 2, 2013, the day of the incident, Pawan Kumar was not in Mumbai, but in Rohtak. Later, the police also tracked the location history of Pawan Kumar's phone and discovered that he was indeed in Rohtak on the day of the incident. It was a major failure on the police's part that Preeti's father found out that Pawan Kumar was in Rohtak on that day, while the police had not managed to do so. This also indicated that the police were not conducting the investigation properly. Therefore, Preeti's father files a writ petition in court and demands an investigation by the CID Mumbai. The court accepts this request, and the investigation is handed over to the CID Mumbai. Once CID Mumbai takes over, the first step they take is to visit Preeti Rotti's home and gather information. The CID officers also question some of Preeti's close relatives. During questioning, one of the relatives tells the police that a boy named Ankur Pawar, who lived in the neighborhood, had an unrequited love for Preeti. He had proposed to Preeti, but she had clearly rejected him. Additionally, Ankur had been insisting on marrying Preeti, but she had also turned down that proposal. According to Preeti's relative, it was after these rejections that Ankur had threatened Preeti, saying she would have to face the consequences. Ankur is called in for questioning. The police ask him where he was on January 1, 2013. Ankur fails to answer properly and immediately starts changing his statements. Additionally, the police notice that Ankur has burn marks on both his hands, resembling those caused by acid burns. Seeing his changing statements and the burn marks on his hands, the police's suspicion grows stronger. They bring Ankur to Mumbai for further questioning on January 17, 2014. After being brought to Mumbai, Ankur is interrogated further, and within a short time, it becomes clear that the person who threw the acid was none other than Ankur Pawar. The police immediately arrest Ankur and send him for a medical examination. After returning from the hospital, the police resume their questioning. During interrogation, Ankur admits that he had feelings for Preeti and wanted to marry her, but she had rejected him. This had made him very frustrated. Meanwhile, Preeti had secured a job with the Indian Navy, while Ankur was still unemployed. His family had begun mocking him because of this, which fueled his jealousy and resentment toward Preeti. Ankur had decided that he would teach Preeti a lesson. The news of Preeti's Navy job had spread among the locals, and everyone knew she was going to Mumbai on January 1. Ankur had learned about this too, so he boarded the same train. He had intended to throw acid on Preeti inside the train, but due to the large crowd and Anka continuously circling Preeti, her parents had become overly cautious. This prevented Anka from carrying out his plan inside the train. Around 4 a.m., Anka had also stood near the train's toilet, hoping Preeti would come there so he could throw the acid, but she did not. So, his plan failed again. Finally, when Preeti got off the train, Anka threw the acid on her. Although Anka confessed to his crime, gathering evidence against him posed a big challenge for the police. The police began to gather evidence against Anku. The first thing they sought to confirm was who had sold the acid to Anku. During their investigation, it was revealed that Anka had purchased the acid from a shopkeeper named Mukesh Bhargav. He told the shopkeeper that he had opened a shop called Anka Batteries and needed the acid for his business. Anka had also said he planned to buy a large quantity of acid, but before making the purchase, he wanted to see a sample. The shopkeeper had given him about 2 liters of acid in a Horlicks container as a sample. To further strengthen the evidence, the police obtained Anku's phone details, which revealed that on January 1st, Anka was at Nizamuddin station, and by the morning of January 2nd, the day of the incident, his location was at Bandra terminal in Mumbai. To confirm Anku's identity, the police conducted an identification parade with eyewitnesses. During the parade, several people were lined up, including Anku. Then, those who had previously testified that they had seen the acid attacker were called in. Eyewitnesses Seema Sheikh, Salim Sheikh, and Salman Sheikh immediately recognized Anku and told the police that he was the same person who had run away after throwing the acid. In fact, when Anku turned around after throwing the acid, his scarf had fallen off, exposing his face. Seema Sheikh had been the first to try and catch the acid attacker. During the chase, Anku turned around briefly, allowing Seema to see his face. Similarly, Salim and Salman had also seen Anku's face, which is why they both recognized him during the identification parade. During the parade, Seema also confirmed that the police had recovered a box from the crime scene, and they noticed the same box in Anku's hand. In addition to these 3 witnesses, another person, Pawan Malviya, also identified Anku. Another person in the identification parade also identified Anku and testified that he had seen Anku near the train toilet at around 4 a.m. With these identifications and testimonies, the police filed a charge sheet, naming Anku Pawar as the prime accused. The case was then brought to the Special City Civil and Sessions Court in Greater Mumbai for trial. It will anger you to know that when Anku was brought to court for hearings, he often entered smiling, sometimes flashing a victory sign. During the trial, the police presented a total of 27 witnesses. Among them, Seema, Salim, and Salman Sheikh also appeared in court and identified Anku as the person who had thrown the acid. After reviewing all the evidence and testimonies, the special court finally convicted Anku Pawar of the crime under sections 302 and 326B of the Indian Penal Code, IPC, and sentenced him to death, along with a fine of 5,000 Indian rupees. This was the first time in India's history that an acid attacker was sentenced to death. The special public prosecutor handling the case called Anku's brutality the greatest inhumanity ever committed against any woman. The judge, while delivering the verdict, remarked that due to the acid attack, Preeti's face had been so severely burned and disfigured that if she had seen her own face, she might have died on the spot. This comment alone illustrates the extent of Anku's cruelty. You can gauge how heartless and wicked Anku Pawar was from the fact that when the judge sentenced him to death, there wasn't a trace of fear on his face. He showed no remorse for what he had done to Preeti, and he continued to smile shamelessly in the courtroom. His cruel laughter was like salt on the wounds of Preeti's family. Although Anku was sentenced to death by the Mumbai Sessions Court, he appealed the decision in the Bombay High Court. The case was heard by Justice V.P. Dharmadhikari and Justice Padma Noyak in the High Court. After a lengthy trial, in June 2019, the Bombay High Court commuted the death sentence to life imprisonment. Given the excruciating pain Preeti went through, and the immense suffering her parents endured, perhaps even the death sentence would have been too lenient compared to the trauma they experienced. Friends, what are your thoughts on this video? Please share them in the comments box. Make sure to like and share the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, Do subscribe before you leave so we can continue bringing such videos for you. Thank you.